Scenarios are one of iPresso's primary tools for automating communications with users. With them, you can create communication paths of any complexity, using a multitude of conditions, such as features or contact activities. On top of that, once you get everything right, further communication will happen automatically. You will save a great deal of time. What can you automate? Everything. You'll automate lead generation, respond to customer visits to the site, communicate reminders about upcoming deadlines, save abandoned processes, not just shopping carts, and much, much more. You are only limited by your imagination. And at this point, probably also by my lengthy introduction. After all, you're here to learn how to do it. To the point. Creating a scenario requires completing 4 steps. First, you need to choose the right settings, and then identify your audience groups. Then assemble and configure the scenario, and finally, run it. Let's start from the beginning. Click Automation in the main menu, then Scenarios and Add New, the plus button. As you can see, the Scenario Studio is similar to the Campaign Studio. Name the scenario in the appropriate field. Of course, you can also add a description so that in the future, you can quickly determine what the scenario's intent was. Select the period of receiving contact for the scenario. Contacts can drop in according to external conditions. In this situation, choose iPresso Satellite, or according to the dates you set. We will use the latter option and set the start date. You don't need to set an end date. In this case, the scenario will work until you manually turn it off. In contact selecting mode, you have 2 options, one-time and recurrent mode. Here you decide whether you want contacts to enter the scenario only once or repeatedly, as long as they meet the criteria. Method of putting contacts into scenario uses criterion by default. That is, all contacts that meet the specified criteria will enter the scenario. The second option is to enlist contacts by API. Then decide whether the action of entering the scenario should be saved in the contact's activity history. This is a useful option when you plan to segment your base more accurately. You can give each scenario tags, which will be useful for reports or system cleanup. All done at this stage, we can move on. In the Recipients tab, define the entry criteria for the scenario. This can be literally anything. Do you want only people living in New York to enter the scenario? No problem. You can even develop a communication scenario only for people with the wrong email address. You can inform them about problems, for example. Only we advise you not to use email campaigns. In our example, we will focus only on all contacts who have the correct email address. Go to the Scenario tab. This is where all the fun begins. You have a scenario construction site in front of you. You will create it with the help of the corresponding blocks visible on the left side. They are divided into 3 basic types. First, action blocks, which define the events to occur, such as sending an email or SMS. Second, condition blocks, which check for certain characteristics such as opening an email. Third, a wide group of other blocks, among which you will find additional modifiers, such as delays or special actions. If you do not want to create a scenario from scratch, you can choose a template from the base we have prepared for you. Here you will find several suggestions that will certainly prove helpful at the beginning. We, however, will focus on building a scenario from scratch. So let's create a scenario that will, for example, send an email, check if it has been opened, and if not, send an SMS reminder. Drag the Send Email action block into the scenario area and connect it with an arrow to the Start block. Then add the conditional block Opened Email and connect. If there was an opening, finish the scenario by adding the corresponding final block to the board. Let's add an SMS reminder and connect it to the Opened Email block. After sending the reminder, we can finish this variant of our scenario. Remember that each block needs to be configured. Just click on the gear icon. Let's see the settings of the block Send Email. Here you choose its name and decide which of the prepared emails to send. As you can see, iPresso gives you plenty of freedom to arrange your own scenarios. Note, It is important to choose the correct condition verification interval. You have full freedom here. You configure the Sending SMS Message block in exactly the same way. You click the gear icon and select the text message you've prepared earlier. You can call the termination blocks anything you want, and we even recommend this for larger scenarios so that you don't get lost in this maze of terminations. But remember that they are required and you must throw them in at the end of each track. Still, select Check if correct. iPresso will take a quick peek to see if everything is in order and point out any errors. If there are no errors, go to the Summary tab. If none of the boxes summarizing the scenario details are red, you can save the scenario. Yellow boxes warn you that something has been left unfilled. If this was your intention, everything is fine and you can run the scenario. How to do it? Go to Drafts and use Surprise, the red Launch button. Done. The scenario starts working and conducting multi-channel communication with customers, and you have more free time which you can spend, for example, visiting iPresso Help Center and reading about more features of the system. Have fun exploring,